Welcome back to part two of this leadership series. In part one, we discovered that leadership is not about titles, it's about responsibility. We talked about why leadership determines the success or destruction of every organization. We talked about the prerequisites of leadership and why many people pursue authority without understanding stewardship. But today, we go deeper because now we answer the real question: what actually separates great leaders from average and dangerous ones? And the truth is, history keeps repeating the same pattern. The leaders who build lasting organizations, families, communities, and nations often possess the same core characteristics. Today, we break down 5 major characteristics of exceptional leadership, and these 5 traits have built some of the greatest organizations in history. So let's begin. The first characteristic of exceptional leadership is vision. See, vision answers the question, what future are we building? Vision allows leaders to see possibility before any proof ever exists. Most people only move based on what they can already see. But visionary leaders, they move based on what they believe can become a reality. Steve Jobs is one of the greatest modern examples of visionary leadership. You see, he saw the future of communication before the world fully understood it. He imagined sleek technology, a simpler user experience, connected digital ecosystems long before smartphones became normal. And that vision transformed Apple into the most influential company, one of the most influential companies in history. But scriptures also give us powerful visionaries. Nehemiah, he looked at broken walls, saw restoration. Moses looked at slavery, saw freedom. Visionary leaders can look at chaos and still see possibility. And this is important because businesses without vision eventually drift into confusion. Teams become frustrated when leadership cannot clearly define where the organization is going, why it matters, and what success looks like. Because people will work harder when purpose is clear, and vision creates purpose, direction, and alignment. Vision creates momentum. And one powerful vision can attract support from places you never expected: the bank, investors, talented employees, community support, the church, and the list goes on. But vision alone is not enough, because vision without strategy remains a dream. And that's where many leaders fail. You see, they have dreams, but no systems, ideas, no structure, excitement, no execution. One of the most powerful leadership moments in scripture happens between Moses and his father-in-law Jethro. See, Moses is leading the Israelites alone. People are standing in line from morning until evening, waiting for Moses to solve every issue personally. And Jethro immediately recognizes the problem: burnout for both Moses and the people standing in line. Jethro says, what you're doing is not good. And that sentence alone is powerful. Think about it. Because great leaders must be able to recognize when something is unsustainable and humble enough to receive feedback. Jethro doesn't stop at identifying the issue. He provides strategy. He tells Moses to identify capable leaders, train them, delegate authority, and allow them handle the lower level matters while he, as a senior leader, handles the complex issues. That's organizational structure. That's scalability. That is strategic leadership. And this lesson is critical for entrepreneurs. If your business cannot function without you, your business is immature. Many founders confuse control with leadership, but real leadership creates systems that outlive the founder. As strategic leaders, you must understand growth requires delegation, and delegation is not merely transferring responsibility, it's transferring both responsibility and authority. Do you ever wonder why the gospel of Christ really started to spread after Christ himself had left the scene? Drop a comment, let us see your response. Third characteristic of great leadership is discernment. The discernment is the ability to recognize what truly matters. Do you know not every good idea is a good idea for your company or for you? And many organizations waste money, time, and energy. They waste focus because leaders chase trends without discernment. Sometimes someone sees a candidate with an impressive resume and immediately becomes excited. But discernment asks a deeper question. Were you looking for someone to solve a real business problem, or did you simply become emotionally impressed by appearance of that resume. And many businesses make expensive decisions this way. Discernment requires leaders to ask, is this relevant? Does this align with our mission? Will this create meaningful impact? Is this sustainable? Without discernment, leaders become reactive, and reactive leadership creates chaos. Every new trend becomes an emergency. Every new opportunity becomes a distraction. Every new idea becomes a detour. Discerning leaders are efficient, right? Because they focus on what moves things forward. Now let's talk about courage. Leadership requires courage, and courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is sound direction in spite of fear. In history, everyone around him saw a giant, but David saw opportunity for God to move. So who is this uncircumcised Philistine? What's interesting is David was the youngest, the least experienced in the army, physically overlooked, but few knew what he had been through tending sheep, fighting bears and lions. So while soldiers froze, David had the courage to move with faith. Leadership often requires standing firm when everybody else panics. And this happens constantly in business. There'll be moments involving debt, competition, market uncertainty, economic downturns, professional betrayal, lawsuits. Pressure and fear can push leaders into shortcuts, desperate decisions, compromise. But courageous leadership stabilizes organizations. Remember Phil Knight? He demonstrated this when he built Nike. When his relationship with Onitsuka collapsed, most people would have folded under pressure because they controlled the shoe supply. Instead, he fought back. He started Nike with his coach, went to court, took enormous risk, and eventually built one of the greatest athletic brands in history. The fear will always exist, but courageous leaders refuse to let fear lead. Because sometimes your employees are afraid, sometimes your family is afraid, sometimes investors are afraid, communities are afraid, and leadership means becoming courageous enough to guide people through uncertainty. And the fifth characteristic of great leadership is, drum roll for this one, wisdom. And wisdom is often confused with intelligence. Wisdom is not merely knowledge. Wisdom is the right action based on understanding. You see, King Solomon demonstrates this powerfully. Two women, they appear before him claiming a child, both telling convincing stories. And Solomon proposes something shocking. He says, split that baby in half. At first, it sounds foolish, cruel even, but something happens. One woman says, no, let the other woman keep the child alive. The other agrees to the child being divided. And in that moment, Solomon discerns the truth. The woman willing to sacrifice proximity to preserve life demonstrated genuine motherly love. And Solomon wisely gives the child to her. Now notice something important, my friends. Wisdom is not motivational speaking. Wisdom is making the correct decision when consequences matter. Wisdom protects people, organizations, families. Wisdom protects futures. And great leaders understand this deeply because every major leadership decision eventually impacts someone's life. So, what have we learned today? Great leaders are visionary, strategic, they're discerning, courageous, and wise. These characteristics shape businesses, families, churches, communities, and a nation. But leadership still goes deeper than these qualities because someone can possess talent, great qualities, and still destroy the organization if character is absent. That is why in part 3, we discussed the character of great leaders, the emotional discipline, the humility, the self-control. Part 3 may be the most transformational episode in this series. So please like this one, subscribe, share, and I'll see you on the next one.